It's been a rocky couple weeks here in New York City. Everyone has their own hurricane story that lived through it, and certainly the festival had its own hurricane experiences. But one of the things that kept us going and gave us a great resolve to keep this festival going afterwards, after all the setbacks, is feeling that we had something to give back to New York City. And not just one thing, but a whole lot of things. 61 feature films, 32 shorts, 22 panels, and great films at that. And you're going to see a great one tonight. In fact, you're the first audience to see this film because it's the world premiere of Can't Stand Losing You. I grew up on the music in this film, and I must say I approached the film with a little bit of skepticism because there's been a lot of films about music of this era. But really, what really impressed me about this film is how this film kind of expanded my understanding of music from this era. And had such a wonderful guide to the period and inside the band, the Police, through the perspective of Andy Summers, who you're going to see a lot of in this film, and you'll know, if you don't already, in about 90 minutes, what just a wonderful companion he is as a tour through this time, in addition to being a wonderful musician, which you already know. This film is directed with a very sure hand, and all the more impressive in that it is a directorial debut. And it's my great pleasure to bring the stage for his world premiere the director, Andy Grieve.
Thanks for coming. Wow, it's bright. So there's going to be a Q&A afterwards. Andy Summers is here, so stick around. And yeah, we'll talk to you afterwards. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Here is Can't Stand Losing You. Please welcome back the director, Andy Grieve, and also Andy Summers, and the whole team behind Can't Stand Losing You.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I guess we just about made it through that. What's left? Death? Thank you all for coming tonight. I'm gratified to see that this is a very good turnout for New York at this point in time. Great. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I mean, I'd like to thank a lot of people. Obviously, all these guys up here. Everybody who was involved with the film. This has been a long haul to get this done, just like any movie. And it's been a long life to live. But I enjoyed it a lot, really. It's been great. And I'd especially like to thank Kate, who sustained me through the whole thing. She's here tonight, too. And our kids. So without that backbone, there's nothing. Special thanks to Andy Grieve, who I think did a brilliant job on the edit of this film and directed so beautifully. Producers, Brett Morgen and Norman Golightly. We've done this together for a long time. And Bill Immerman, who got us through the whole process. So now what do we do? Do we do Q&A?
We'll do some Q&A. In the booth, if I could have some house lights up just so we can see these beautiful people here. But Andy, let me start with a question to you. This film originated as a memoir, a book that you wrote.
Yeah.
What was the difference between the process of writing a book and making a film, or the different results of them?
Well, I think, when it got to the film, I had to let go of a lot of cherished moments, and I really had to hand it over to Andy. He's a brilliant editor, so luckily I was in good hands. But of course, I had all my little moments I was attached to, things that made me cringe. So basically, threw out all my cherished moments and put all the cringe moments in. That's the process. Whereas, obviously writing the book, I could sort of indulge myself more originally I wrote an 800-page book, which was ludicrous. It was like the Bible. I had to chop it all the way down to about 300 pages to make it more readable. The film process was, of course, thrilling for me to see, but I, felt, of course, less involved, apart from having, played the music and lived the life. And I could, whereas writing the book was, a solo effort. But so, I think it was in this case, as I'm sort of, as it were, the principal actor in the film, but I still had to let go of so much and trust. There was some input from me, but clearly not enough,
Andy Grieve, one of the things I love about this film is the kind of deep background that you give to Andy Summers' career before the police, and really root the music history that led up to the breakout of the police. Can you talk about how you piece that stuff together, and what the images and archival footage that you needed to tell that story?
That's partly what he was just saying, is that some of the things that had to get cut out, there was just no footage for. So we were limited in a certain way, but especially the early days. So you'll notice as it goes on, there's more interviews with the band, the police, but even before that, it was definitely limited by archival material. So, but we had probably every piece of police-related material you could possibly have, like 1,000 hours of. So we found fans that had every ticket stub from every show from the 1982 tour. So it was just an incredible wealth of things to take from.
Are there any police fans in the audience? We'll take some questions from you. Raise your hand, and I will call on you. Yeah, right here.
No. We're all in the middle. And actually, somebody asked me this same question today, and oddly enough, the real pacifier in the group, believe it or not, was Sting, which may be very Machiavellian on his part, possibly. But in fact, he was the one that often stepped in and broke up the fights. So, all of these things that become legendary and myth-like are actually generally half-truths. I was the nastiest and the strongest, and I beat them up all the fucking time. So sorry about that. Since the last concert, mostly sex every night. What do you think? Tantric, of course. Yeah. And then we do the tarot cards together and see what else is going on. That's the way it is. There are things that, probably they were all rubbish, and Andy had the good sense to, completely ignore me and just keep moving forward. There was a scene, great little scene of us playing all together backstage, jamming something or other that was really good, actually. That went out. What's the other one I liked? There was all kinds of things. He has a list of them all. He's trying to forget it all. 3 hours about my childhood, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, there was. I would recommend you all, if you want to go further with this horror film story, to read the book, because there's a lot more in the book. The thing that I had to give up was, where I could spend 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages, whatever, on a particular period or moment. Like, for instance, my relationship with Eric Clapton. It's not even in the film, or some of these moments would go by in 10 seconds. Oh my God, we didn't. This is the way it is. But I had to bow to the filmmaking process and what made the film go forward. It's not a book; it's a film. You can't photograph the book. You can't photograph every page of the book. This is a movie. Well, we are the best looking. There's no pressure. It's that easy, baby. Right, the whole thing is pressure, and either you rise to it or you crumble and you don't make it, because to be in one of these bands with this sort of profile and to play very well all the time, deliver those concerts, it's a tremendous pressure. So you've either kind of got it in you or you're not going to make it. It's not for everyone. I mean, the irony for me, and I think the book was one of the seeds of the reunion, because both the guys liked it. The book came out in October '06, and of course there's an epilogue where I'm saying, well, it was a great experience, blah, 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 and there's all the stuff with it, and thanks very much, we'll never do it again. And 3 months later, we got back together. So wrong about that. Was that close to Very close. Yeah, the book came out in October. I was here in October. This is 2006. I was in New York, promoting the book. Sting was promoting a Loot album. And we did get together and have a chat, Thank you very much. Yeah, let Andy speak.
The book is framed around the morning before the big Shea Stadium show. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
So I took that as sort of the idea to make the reunion tour that morning and just extended it. So that's kind of how we fixed that problem, sort of.
Let me ask each of the producers what it was that drew you to this project, this material, and Andy's music.
I was the biggest Police fan ever. Yeah, we'll talk after. I read One Train Later, and I learned a lot about Andy that I didn't know, even though I thought I knew everything, and called up his agent and asked to meet because I wanted to possibly work with him on a soundtrack or score for something else. And we had a meal, which was unbelievable for me. And I think I frightened Andy a lot, because I was like, remember when you wore that blue shirt in '81 at the show? And but he was nice enough, and we hit it off, and he had just started talking to Brett about making this this into a movie, and I just had produced a lot of other things, a lot of traditional films, not documentaries, but I offered to lend my services and was very excited, and it really was sort of a gift from the gods that the reunion tour happened. I mean, this was going to be based completely on the book and framed as the book was, and then magic happened.
I just add to that that Norm is really frighteningly the biggest Police fan I've ever met. Scared the shit out of me, and I think Andy's photographs were really the motivation, I think, to make the movie, for me at least, because he has this great story. And as someone who loved the Police but didn't really know the backstory, I love the fact that, as Thom pointed out, that he had this whole life before the band. And it's just really a story about never giving up. And I think it's something that really transcends rock and roll. But his photographs, when you look to do a film like this, you want something unique perspective, and Andy's I think one of the greatest photographers around. I mean, it's not just a guy taking snapshots. He's incredibly artful, beautiful eye, and we knew that would add really nice texture to the film.
So,
it's something very important, because I was asked this question a few times today, and what was the inspiration for the film? And what got into my mind was, after I saw the brilliant film that Brett directed called The Kid Stays in the Picture, which is a story of Bob Evans, the Hollywood producer. Yeah, wonderful piece of work. Brett had directed that. And the thing about the film is it's really made just from still photographs that are animated and the voiceover. And I just thought it was so great. And at the time, I was putting together a book of photography that came out in 2007 called I'll Be Watching You, which it was all taken from the years with the Police, because I photographed everything from beginning to end and then never did anything with it. By 2007, it was a massive book with Taschen. While I was making that, I was talking with these guys about Brett's film, and sort of beginning to wake up to the idea that, I wonder if I could do anything with this, like a film, which was beyond my wildest dreams. But because I had all the writing, the autobiography, and I had this whole body of work, these photographs of the whole Police years, just, destiny. I met someone in Hollywood that said, and I was talking to them about this, and said, "Oh, I know Brett. You should contact him, and gave me his email." I think that's how we started Brett, right? I emailed Brett, because for me, he was a mythical figure, because he'd made this incredible film. I imagine that he was probably about 90 years old, and this grand sort of German producer living in New York. It wasn't true. Anyway, long story short, but Brett's film was really the inspiration for this. And Brett responded to the material that I had, and we did get together, and Norm came in, and obviously we went forward. And so, just to put that out there, that's where it came from.
Andy, I want to ask you, because Brett talks about you as a photographer, you're also obviously a writer, a musician. I wonder creatively how you see yourself. Do you think of yourself primarily in one of those categories?
No, I definitely think of myself as a musician, first and foremost. And I do I'm attracted to all these, the creative arts. I love these things. And, one thing I've sometimes said in interviews about all that kind of thing, creating, going from one to another, is I always seem to be looking for the condition of music, whether it's in photography or writing. There's something that I'm, want to sense, and I think it's really music. But then, of course, I am a musician. But I sometimes wonder with other people, if they're not musicians, what are they sensing? It must be, if a great writer's, writing, I think, when it's getting really good and he's judging his own work, I think he's, it's music, actually.
So when you're writing, you think of it musically.
That, there was a sort of an abstract conversation we're having now, but that's what I'm sort of trying to sense. You can put rhythm, melodic flow, pulse, all these things could be applied to, sequencing things, editing things. I'm sure that's what Andy was doing when he was editing this film, and certainly you would look for it in writing. Well, it takes cojones, as we say in some countries.
Oh, you needed a job.
Yeah, also just, survival. I had to survive like anyone else. It got real thin at times, that's why, the very thin times, which I experienced particularly in Los Angeles when I went there and I was at college there and I was down to about $40 a month, believe it or not. That was tough, and that went on for a while. It was a very difficult time, but I never forget it. And I think where it helps you is later when you start sort of, ascending, let's say, it acts as some kind of anchor, some kind of ballast, so that, when the good times come, you've got something to remember that, it could all leave tomorrow. So, I never forgot that. But, I always felt, moving from one band to another, that, I was, playing the guitar all the time, fanatically, that, it was very important for me to keep the skills together. I never gave up on music or gave up practicing or anything. One of the points I like to think about the book in particular is that the central character is not really me, it's the guitar, my attachment to it, and that throughout all the ups and downs and the difficulties and the good times, the constant is the guitar itself. And then I always come back to this, the neck of the guitar and the 6 strings, and that's what I'm doing. That never goes away. So that, that's the point of the book, really, and I hope that came across a bit in the film. So, you go from one situation to another, and you got that guitar there, and you're looking down, okay, let's see if we can make it through this one,
Well, we should wrap this up. Is there something else you wanted to say? Yeah.
No, we just want to thank DOC NYC, and there's people that worked on the movie here. There's John Dowdell, the colorist here. Tom Paul is supposed to be here. Did Tom make it? Oh, yeah, there's Tom Paul. And Tom Hurwitz, our cinematographer, is back here as well. And
An SVA professor, Tom Hurwitz.
Professor Tom Hurwitz, probably the greatest living documentary cinematographer. Legend. And I just want to thank, when Norm and I went in to pitch this film to the Yari Film Group, we sat outside and said, what the fuck, this is a very difficult film to fucking pitch, and we're asking for a lot of money. And we were all sort of getting flustered about it, and Bill and Bob Yari walked in the room, and Norm and I looked at each other and said, so the movie and both Bill and Bob said, we don't need to hear the pitch, how much do you need? And you don't really get that much, and certainly because the Yari group doesn't exist anymore, you don't get it anymore. But I just want to acknowledge Bill and his support for the film.
Well, as I said before, you're the first audience in the world to see the film. If you like it, go out and tell your friends on Facebook, Twitter, whatever you use. I want to thank you very much for coming. I want to thank especially Andy Summers, Andy Grieve, and the team behind Can't Stand Losing You.
Thank you.